Last week we had ourselves a ludicrously creamy triple IPA, courtesy of the good folks at Overtone. And this week we're back for a second helping, with a little collab from Leeds' finest, North Beer Co, with their Oat Creamed double IPA. Now, North, as I'm sure most of you are well aware, actually started out life as a lowly bar. But not just any bar, they happen to be the very first craft beer bar in the country, and pretty much the epicenter for the UK craft revolution. The legendary venue first opened its doors back in 1997, so it's safe to say it's been drinking for a little longer than a lot of us, in an attempt to make the smoothest, creamiest DIPA possible, and by their own admission they succeeded some. This little beaut is chock full of extra pale malts, both naked and flaked oats, and finished with a gentle addition of lactose. This DIPA is so soft, so creamy, so smooth. Hot with the Huel melon, the Galaxy, and the Sabro. It promises to be a tropical smoothie of pina colada, cantaloupe, vanilla, honey drizzled passion fruit, and a coconut creamed finish, with just a pinch of fresh green bitterness. It definitely does sound a treat, and as these two very rarely fail to deliver, I am very excited to get stuck in. So let's do just that. Let's get pouring. So it is quite tropical on the nose. That melon really is quite present up top. There are some subtle summer fruits just in behind. Maybe notes of strawberry perhaps, with a real peaches and cream kick in there too. And it does almost have a wine grapiness to it, hidden in the background there. So there is a huge honey sweetness right up top. Subtle notes of those summer fruits just in behind. And you are getting a little feel for some of those peaches and cream too, before fading out with a soft, grassy bitterness. And I've got to admit, it's that melon that's really standing out up top. And there is just a subtle feel of that 8.5% ABV, as there is a sweet, almost syrupy booziness in those middles, which carry through nicely into that bitter finish. And you are just getting an ever subtle feel of that wine grapey note in those mids too. And there is a real smoothness to it too. And you are almost getting honey stickiness in those middles. And that creaminess, it is just a little dialed in. I was expecting it to be a lot fuller, a lot milkier on the tongue. And now we're down into the beer. I've got to admit, those creamy notes have remained very, very subtle throughout. And although you're definitely getting a feel for those oats and that lactose in the super smooth body, it's not translating all that heavily into the actual flavours, as it is that honey dew melon and that sweet, syrupy boozy note that are really still leading the way. Yes, there's a whole cocktail of fruity and those creamy notes in behind, but they are still very, very subtly placed in the background. Although, that said, those peaches and those creamy notes are starting to have a little more say in those middles now, and they are just ever so slightly softening that bitter finish. So I was definitely expecting a little more pineapples and cream, a true pina colada vibe. But what you actually get is a whole lot of melon, a very sweet honeydew melon at that. And that sweetness carries through beautifully to those sweet, syrupy, boozy middles, before fading with a soft, grassy, bitter finish. Now don't get me wrong, there's a whole cocktail of fruity notes going on in the background. Subtle tropical notes, those summer berries, quite a present peachy note, and as things wear on, those creamy notes do start to become a little bit more pronounced, but for the most part they do remain very, very subtle. Almost a little too subtle. But it's definitely in the body where you really get a feel for those oats and that lactose, as it is oh so smooth. And those honey notes mixed with that syrupy booze really does give it a stickiness in the middle. But I must admit, I would much prefer some of that smoothness to really translate to a real creamy taste, which it sort of does towards the tail end. For me, its presence was felt just a tad too late to leave a truly meaningful impression.